so excited to have Candice with us today and all about her and to highlight and share all about her incredible business. So I'm Taylor Proctor, the host. I'm going to call myself the host of the Get Good at Business Spotlight. So with us today, we have Candice Mallicoat, who has over 30 years of meditation experience, and she is your guide to cultivating an effective, sustainable meditation, mindfulness, and breathwork practice tailored to your modern lifestyle. She specializes in ancient techniques adapted to address emotional dysfunction, stress management, neurodivergent burnout. She empowers you to create a life you desire, fostering confidence, inner peace, and healthy, enriching relationships. So we're so excited to embark on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment with her, as she's going to help us unlock the transformative power of meditation and mindfulness under her expert guidance. She also does all of this through her business, the Luminous Warriors, which offers meditation, intuition, belief breakthrough, and breathwork sessions within coaching packages, conferences, workshops, and retreats. We are so excited to have you here with us, Candice. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm kind of thinking, gosh, my bio should be longer. I'm like, oh, wait, she's not done yet. Oh, those are my words. I wrote that. Okay.
It's funny. I have a bio that's like less than 100 words, and still when people read it out loud, I'm like, that feel like that went on forever.
Sounds long. Yeah, right.
But okay, we have covered the basics here, so we are ready to dive in.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us and being one of our first business owners in the Get Good at Business Facebook group to share your story. So to kick us off, would you like to share briefly what drew you to meditation and mindfulness and how you started the Luminous Warriors?
So growing up, my dad was from California, and back then in the late 70s and early 80s, California was where the holistic and the spiritual metaphysical woo crowd on the West Coast really resided, right? So he was very much into natural healing, even though he was a registered nurse. And so he exposed me to meditation when I was pretty young. I honestly can't even say I remember how old I was when I first saw him meditating, but I actually started to meditate. He would talk to me about what he was doing and invite me to sit and do it with him. Back then I remember, at least when I was 15 years old. So I was so happy to have had those seeds planted, and really that's the very, very beginning. And then the pivotal point was in 2011, being infected with Lyme disease through a tick bite. I pretty much had to let go of, I don't know, any skepticism I had that I could heal, right? And I wanted to believe in magic and consciousness and energy and all of that. Just like all of that I did as a kid, right? And so I used meditative techniques to deal with what came with that. And so yeah, I like fell into the entrepreneur world about 6 years ago and started teaching people these practices to help with various things. And it's a true love of mine that will always be. So yeah, here I am.
I love that. And would you mind sharing how you came up with the name Luminous Warriors? Like, that's such an incredibly powerful name.
Oh
And
man.
such a comprehensive name for meditation and mindfulness as well.
That's pretty woo. This is a pretty interesting experience. Let's see if I can nutshell it. So originally I started out as embodied wellness coaching because I had come through illness and really learned how to use meditation to help me be who I am outside of the experience of illness and not make it my identity, right? That's how I began. And I did love doing that for a few years, but I was in meditation one day after yoga, and I had it was kind of a vision, but it wasn't like the visions as that I've had before, just a handful of times. It was like somebody else is playing a movie in front of my eyes. Like I can imagine a whole lot in that meditative space. I'm very clairvoyant. I can see things, somewhat clearly, but I just work within that space a lot, right? But this experience was as if someone was shining a flashlight right into my left eye, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I'd open my eyes, nobody was there, close them, and it's super bright again. And I went looking later on the internet for ascended masters, for lists and names of ascended masters throughout history and time and like different cultures. And close to the top, I ran across Amaryssis, which is the goddess of light. And there's not a lot of information that I've been able to dig up about her necessarily, but it didn't really matter. I just needed to understand that it was definitely light. It was light being, and I have I have a personal experience with that I could probably talk about for hours. But that was interesting to me, and then I started to do the shadow work, and I'm very comfortable with. I mean, it's hard to deal with, but I'm very comfortable with depression, anxiety. I've lived with it a lot throughout my life since I was a child. So if I hadn't had meditation, I don't know what kind of a person I would be, to be honest. And so I realized that I have, there's this light and this dark that I am very familiar with, but I have a lot of fire signs in my astrological chart as well, lots of light. And then the name Candice means glittering, glowing white light.
Wow.
So I look at it as the luminous is the sword of truth, and that we might actually have to go to battle with, right, to cut through the shadows and the darkness and the evil. And it's a mission, and anyone can choose to pull into that luminous warrior energy, because there is a lot of darkness and shadow in this realm, and I've seen a lot of it and gotten myself out of some very scary situations because of the meditative work that I've done, and knowing and feeling and trusting myself and what else is going on around me. So there you go.
Love it. Very, very cool. And I think that's a perfect segue into my next question for you, which is all about, you mentioned in the bio that you tailor ancient meditation techniques to address modern day stresses and neurodivergent challenges. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I, over the years, had noticed that people tend to have one of five objections or struggles or beliefs around meditation that I call myths, just because it's overcomplicated, and things like that. And it really, we have this idea of cultures that have the monks and the priests, right, that do that deep chanting and that deep meditation and all that work. And it's like, and this big package. And then you've got what Hollywood likes to show us as meditation, which sometimes could be, again, that whole setting, that mystical setting, or a mushroom taking, dreadlock wearing hippie. Right. So we don't really have a good example often, enough of what meditation looks like for the average person. And going through Lyme disease was something that really taught me how to be in a meditative state all day long without having to make time for it, and utilize it the best based on the circumstances I was facing. And that's what everybody needs. They're like, oh, I don't have time to meditate. I'm just too busy. I have too many kids. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's talk about how you can meditate with all of that anyway. And so, yeah, I don't know if that gives you a really clear idea of it, but it's weaving it into your time and your schedule in such a way that really just works.
So I know that we have a lot of neurodivergent business owners in the group. And obviously, I mean, your business name came through meditation. And I'm sure you have plenty of other business components that are assisted via your meditation. So how do you tailor those ancient techniques after breaking all of those myths for the neurodivergent challenges?
Thank you for circling back to that. I had forgotten that was part of your initial question. So that's been something I'm unpacking more and more, because my family it's coming to light how neurodivergent my children are. So of course, I'm looking at myself, my husband, my family, my mom, dad, brothers, all of that. And so it really, for me, has just been a way of being. It's like, right. So I'm deconstructing to really, still figure out how to tell people, like, okay, this is, XYZ, but it really doesn't make much of a difference, because for me, it's about allowance and surrender into the overwhelm that can come with being neurodivergent, the self-care that's required often with that overstimulation or the stress and anxieties and things that can come with being neurodivergent. It can increase mental focus and productivity, especially for those that have ADHD or ADHD type symptoms. And so it's just so beneficial for emotional processing and regulation, as well as, like I said, that executive function, and gives it some structure and a container, and you get to understand your own stuff that you're feeling and make those changes based on those references. So you
I
get
think
those.
that's so crucial, especially in business, because as we get good at business and we build in our foundations, it hits a point where it's not about the actions or the learning anymore. It's about the mental resilience and emotional resilience to get through all of those things and come out on the other side and continue to take action. And so to have that mental and emotional awareness be unlocked through meditation, I think that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, and every time I do a retreat or I do my conference, we have our 4th annual immersion coming up in February, and I'm just like, I can't do it. I don't know. Yes, I can. Oh, I can. We can. This is good, right? And being
Right.
able to know thyself.
And identify what emotion is that, and
Yeah.
then ask why you're feeling it, and then get to work on releasing and working through it. So good. So, what is your top advice for someone that's struggling with, or as you mentioned earlier, feels like they don't have time to maintain a consistent meditation practice?
Not having time is the number one. Well, I call them bullshit busters around meditation. It's the number one most common reason out of the 5 that I hear most consistently. And um, there's a couple things. First of all, science has shown that it only takes 5 minutes for your body to start to have a physiological result from it, a benefit. Your nervous system is calming down, your breathing becomes a little more regulated. So 5 minutes. And yes, everybody scrolls on social media for 5 minutes.
At
Everybody
least.
everybody sits on the toilet with their phone in their hand for 5 minutes, and maybe not everybody, but a lot of people, right? And it's like, I mean, we all have those little moments, those little 5 minutes of time where we're waiting for something, for the doctor maybe, or in line at the grocery store. And um, so that's really helpful. When that science came out, I got really excited about that, because that shows that it doesn't take as long as you think. Is it super fun sometimes to get in there? And if you have, to sit for 20 minutes, for sure. Seasoned meditators really like to play in that space for a little bit longer. But the second thing that I want to say is that this is about then learning how to meditate without having to make it look a certain way. Okay, now I have to be home and I have to shut the door, and the kids have to be, watching TV and entertained. I have to turn my phone off. I get to light the candles. I get to light the incense. I get to have my super sweet meditation pillow. I get to have all my crystals in my bra. No, you don't
That's way
have
too
to
much.
do it, right? Yes, is that fun? Absolutely. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. But that's again where that stigma, and those stereotypes exist about meditation, right? And that's when I saw. So here, okay, let me share a story with you guys.
Sure.
All right, is that cool? So I am in the throes of Lyme disease. My bones feel like they're melting, on the inside. It's just this. I have a baby who's like 8 months old at the time, and a 5-year-old. Trying to go to the grocery store, get things done was a nightmare for me. So I I didn't sleep good, and I'd wake up and have to just take care of things. And I realized I don't always have the time in the morning to wake up and do this ideal meditation. I was like, I have to get through this day. And back then, you guys, I'll paint this picture, and it's not a pretty one. I was a verbal abuser to my family. I was neurodivergent, didn't know it, probably autistic. We'll find out next year what all of that is. And then my brain's inflamed with Lyme disease. My body is just under attack, right? From head to toe. And it was ugly. And I was like, I can't do this. And so that was when I was like, all right, when I'm with my kids, what does meditation get to look like for me there? When I'm at the doctor's office and I have that 5 minutes, right? I would focus on my breath, because sometimes it was just like I could never catch my breath, right? I was so sick. And so it was me looking at what I couldn't do throughout my day, and how I could still apply meditation in all of these different areas to feel calmer, because I was losing my mind. Every hour to hour to hour, it was an emotional or a physical upset that was happening for 2 to 3 years. So meditation really was my saving grace there. So yeah.
Would you recommend for our business owners watching that even if it's a few minutes in between a sales call or your next live presentation, and to start with, and maybe it's driving to an appointment, right? Would you recommend that focus on breathing as a core starting point to build that consistent practice?
Always. Breath is always, 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 always the best thing to, to do. It's cool because it's the only organ we have that works on its own and that we get to trigger intentionally. So yeah. So it's, that's the simplest thing you can do. I mean, sometimes people like to focus on things like counting or, a mantra or whatever that might be. When I'm driving, because I have two special needs kids and I spend a ton of time in my car and I really don't like it. But I turn off the radio and I just go into mindfulness and I'm very aware. I am like the best driver ever. And it's just all my focus is going into driving and I'm not allowing my mind to wander while I'm driving. I'm not
Very
allowing myself
present.
to, yes. And what's funny is that then my mind eventually does start to open up and certain thoughts and awarenesses will come and aha moments. So that's really fun. But it makes people better drivers. So that I would recommend when you're driving to do that. But
Love
in
it.
between meetings, right? Taking 6 deep breaths,
Mhm.
just those small moments of recentering, right?
Cool. Love it. So, what is like, do you see any future? And I know meditation's been around forever, for a really, really long time, but do you see any future developments coming into the mindfulness and meditation space? And then how do you plan to integrate these into your business?
Future developments, we're going to see more and more companies taking on meditation as a wellness perk, a benefit for their employees. I really, really am, and I'm hoping and seeing that there's that potential for conventional medicine to continue to open up to these these healing mindsets and healing properties and things that are maybe a little more holistic, right? And so
Not
I am.
science backed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. As science is catching up, the medical field is also then being like, okay, you guys aren't full of crap, right? So like all the gurus have known these things and herbalists for thousands of years. So thank
Right.
you. Join, welcome. The sandwiches are stale, but welcome to the party. So but that's exciting. And then ultimately just more technology and VR. So my plans for 2024 are to incorporate, we have a couple of meditative type of VR experiences and the equipment for that. So I'd like to see how I can integrate that into some of my in-person events. But yeah, I think the virtual reality space, I think it'd be really exciting to see what AI comes up with too, as far as being able to create very custom things for people.
Mhm.
In that sense, I still always, love to intuitively help people with that as well. But I think with AI at our fingertips, we're able to get a lot more strategy and a meditation or mindfulness practice. So yeah.
That's super cool. I love that. And I love that you're pulling in the most recent technologies into one of the oldest holistic health practices in the world. Like that's a really cool combination.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little trepidation for sure, right? But it's like, who knows where this will go. But I tend to really think that it could, that it's exciting. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So everybody that's watching are business owners, but I think we all can see the value and the benefit of meditation being reiterated by you and your expertise here today. So do you have anything that you'd like to offer those watching? And we can put the link in the comments as well, that could help us really kind of hack into meditation for our lives.
Well, it's so funny you say the word hack, Taylor, because I just happen to have some hacks for everybody. All right. So, um, the hacks I've included, first of all, you've got some really overlooked benefits to meditation, stuff we haven't even talked about here today. And because everybody's like, oh, it calms you down, it helps you focus. There's a lot more that's happening in our brains and our bodies, and it's pretty cool. One of my favorites is that meditation helps you look young. Because you guys, I mean, did I look 46? I'm not 46. I've been meditating since I was 15, y'all. So Okay, like the proof is in the pudding. Well, maybe the genes too, but so this hacks include some of those benefits and then some suggestions about what to do in that practice, because people are like, well, I'd sit down and my mind, I think of the to-do lists, right? So there's a suggestion on how to address that right in the moment when it happens. And then part one, I have a 3-part series, but part one is the Be the Observer meditation. And this is the one and very amazing meditation that I get everyone started on. It's my go-to. I fall back on it during times of like stress or anxiety when my head is just going. And this is the exercise, like going to the gym and starting to lift, the dumbbells, that will quiet your mind. It will slow
Okay.
those thoughts. It will give you control over how fast or slow. And if you're going to pause, right? That's the powerful space to be. And so I start everybody out on that. And honestly, if you could do it for 5 minutes every day for a week, chances are you're going to start to notice some pretty interesting things. So, yeah, Taylor has the link for that. And, you guys, it's just a free PDF. So go sign up for that.
Love
I'd love
it. We'll put it in the comments immediately.
to.
So, Candice, as we wrap this up, this business highlight, is there anything else that you would like to share with us or that we need to know?
So, really, it all goes back to being able to be with yourself. And that can be a hard place to be sometimes if you have buried traumas, if you've got shame, if you're dealing with hard things in your life, because you have to, like, sometimes you feel those in that space, but it is your most powerful private space. And it will give you the best viewpoint on who you are. And the rest of the world has no idea. They can't tap into that. And so this absolutely becomes this place for you to truly know yourself, to be able to then work through your kinks and have successes out in business and get those new ideas and be able to trust and seize opportunities when they come because you're listening to your intuition, right? There's a whole lot of those benefits in business as well, because everything stems from you. And if you're kind of just skirting around the issues you might have going on in yourself and not getting any results, it could be that deep inner work is needed. So sometimes I have found some people need, like, they're ready for the business coaching of things and to scale and whatnot. And then other people are still trying to build the business, but it's the personal coaching that's going to help them clear the way to then be able to work with business strategies that are going to be effective. So I guess that's it. All
Yeah.
right.
I love that. I love that. I had a call yesterday with a business owner and we were talking and she's like, I've been working on my mindset for a year. Now I'm ready to get good at the business part. Right. And
Yeah.
so it's wherever it is in your journey, whether it's you're getting good at the business and the mindset stuff's got to catch up eventually, or
Mhm.
you've been working on the mindset and you're like, okay, now I got to learn the business. Either way, it's valuable to know who you are and kind of where you are mentally and emotionally and work through that through meditation.
Yeah.
So love
Well,
it.
because during the business is going to bring up all the personal stuff too. So like a lot of us have done it all at the same time.
Yes,
you know.
100%.
Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Candice, and for being our first business owner to highlight in the Get Good at Business Facebook group. So excited and grateful that you were able to join us today, and we'll see you in the group. Be sure to reach out to Candice. You can go to our members section, click on her picture, search for her name, and DM her, ask questions, or you can ask questions here in the group. And I'm sure, as Candice is one of our experts, would be happy to answer. So that said, we'll see you guys all in the group. Stay active and we will chat soon. Thanks so much.